money. That's the problem. Government is always looking for where you invest little and get outcome short term, rather than where you invest heavy and get long term and sustaining outcome. So we invest money, we retrain them, but we must force them to be retrained. And we must look at those who have motivation to teach, who are probably victims, and not those who have taken privilege, that they have a right to extract salaries every month and not be able to improve themselves. That's how to deal with it. Deal with it with two platforms. One is that we must secure the future of these students. We must save them from this horror. At the same time, we must look at these victims, so to say, who have been victimized by the system that tolerated incompetence for too long, that gave negative incentive for them to rise up to a state of total incompetence, and now victimhood. They just can't do anything.
It also speaks to the system. I mean, it speaks to, because there will be questions as to how did these people get in there in the first instance, and how do we ensure that this kind of disaster doesn't happen again. If it's happening in other states of the country, which most likely it is happening, because we know where public education is around many parts of the country. What do you think for state governments who are, because some people will say that this is rather bold. I mean, when you look at what has happened to governors in the states that have tried this kind of thing, you would know that a lot of governors will be very reluctant to take this path.
Absolutely.
But for governors who, or for, administrators who are very, very, worried about the state of the education system in their state, what would you advise them to do? How would you advise them to proceed in trying to correct some of the wrongs that might have happened in the system?
I think, first, you need courage, and I think the government in Kaduna State doesn't lack that capacity. You also need some sense of diagnostic, what clinical doctors call differential diagnosis. You see, we have a problem, just say malaria. If somebody says, I feel dizzy, you can say, oh, it's malaria. Or you can say, do you have stomach ache? Do you have running nose? So you are differentiating the diagnosis until you come to a solution. So this clearly maybe typhoid. This might be this. So first and foremost, let's sit back and look at this problem holistically and say, first and foremost, why do we have this? And I tell you what, it is politics that's driving this. Politics in the sense that people, take for example, Nigerian Teachers Institute, National Teachers Institute, NTI, an agency that's created every year so much money. If you look at the budget of the Ministry of Education, a lot goes into that content pile. And it's political sausage for some people. Instead of training, and look, see what happened. When we say this is supposed to be an agency that retrains teachers, prepare them, especially primary school teachers, so that they are fitted dynamically for changes in the curriculum. But what they do is that you go and sponsor all kinds of people from the rural areas, political supporters, and they attend conference, and say 2 days conference, and then the resource persons are not even competent to deliver any knowledge, and then you pay them all handed, and then the rest of the money is taken away. And that's what the Teachers Institute has been doing, and they post you figures of people that have been trained. So first and foremost, do we really want to be a country that's based on productivity? It might look unconnected, but it's connected with our revenue sharing, oil sharing, everything sharing process. So patronage, people fix their people as part of accessing public service job, getting their own. Nobody sits back and says who is competent to do. So we create a sense that competence doesn't really matter. Ability doesn't really matter. And then when we see it at the micro level, where primary school students are now victims of total lack of knowledge, we are frightened. So the first thing you do is that let's, not just the states, I think that this should be something that it should be done at a global level. Because if you look at the educational sector, it is both concurrent and exclusive. The federal government has a stake on that, states have stakes. So there should be a joint process of diagonizing and say, okay, how do we retrace this route? First is that we must first make cornerstone competence all the way, number one. Number two now, you now have to, after this analysis, let's look also at, apart from teachers, let's look at the curriculum. Let's look also at the learning environment. Often we talk about reform, people focus on schools, building maybe 5-star hotels in the name of school. But really, the quality of education revolves around 1, teachers' competence, 2, curriculum, 3, motivation, and also parent-students collaboration. So if there are PTAs, many of these schools, if PTAs, parents, teachers are working together, you get better outcome. That's number 2. The third thing to do also is to say, look, investment of finance. Why do we think that education is not properly invested upon? Because it's not political hotball. Education is not concrete. You don't see when a school comes first, when a state comes first in WAEC or comes first in any form of standardized testing, it doesn't create too much political gain for many governors, because except very enlightened society. So people say, wow, we are doing well. But when we say we build 5 primary schools, and you show it on television, people say you're doing well. But if you look at it, every state, and say, okay, what was the score of your state before you took over? Where is it now? What do you do? So you see that there are several policy interventions, and those interventions, because they don't return value on politics, people don't see them as really valuable and visible. State governors do not put money. So let our money also go into education.
Can the federal government drive that? Can it, I mean, first of all, its own allocation to education has not been very encouraging.
Absolutely.
I mean, it has just 7% even for the 2018 budget. This year, I think, was about 6%
yes.
or so. Now, but assuming it were to be the driver, I mean, we're saying to do something in primary health care. Can it be a driver for, you know, what we should be looking for, competency, as you
Absolutely.
said,
they can.
In education?
I have 3 options. One is the federal government has matching grants. Look at the UBA support program.
I'm going to have to interrupt your thoughts. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But we have to take a moment now. Sunrise Today will continue in just a moment. Please stay with us.